This is Gloria Haynes again, Director of Bereavement and Counseling at Lakeside Hospice. We have been talking over the past few weeks about grief and the many stages of grief and what you experience as you go through grief. We're kind of winding this down now. I think we've shared a lot of good information, and I think you've been able to usurp this information, and hopefully it has been helpful to you as you have been on your grief journey, or if you know someone else, either a family member or a friend who is walking this journey, that you have been able to help them with the information that you have learned from our talks and from our studies and from these videos that you've been able to listen to and look at from our grief program here at Lakeside Hospice. Today, as we begin to wind down this particular series for right now, we want to talk about hope, because you've been going through a whole lot, and we want to be sure that you know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is a bright side somewhere. Nothing stays the same. It moves on, and it gets better if we put the work into it. Yes, grief is work. You might wonder why you have been tired and frustrated and feeling hopeless and all of these ambivalent feelings that you've had during this grief journey. But this is work. And it takes time and it takes effort in order to get through the process. But gradually, hope does come through. Now and then we get a little glimpse of hope in one experience or another. This cloud that had been so dark begins to break up, and rays of light come through. We may be in different grief and different parts of grief and been struggling for weeks and sometimes for months, but we are never quite sure how long grief is going to last. We must remember that no two people are the same, nor are any two grief situations identical. It would be wrong for us to leave the impression that we are less than human if we do not express our feelings overly. We do express our feelings, but people express feelings differently. We sometimes struggle with the many stages of grief, but somehow temperamentally they are able, and we are able, people are able to handle problems very well by themselves. Sometimes there's no need, or people feel that there is no need for anyone to help them, or they may feel like you're meddling in my life, even though your goal is to help. Sometimes folk do not want your help. We soon learn, if we try to force ourselves upon someone who doesn't want our help, that it's better to leave these people alone, to let them work out their problem for themselves. The great majority of us, however, need to express our emotions, and we do. We need the warm affection and encouragement of those about us. As we are the recipients of such affection, it makes it easier for us to sense that our present attitude of shutting out all new opportunities for meaningful living is unrealistic. We find that other experiences in life can be meaningful again. The opposite of this is seen in the rich old widow who has acted strangely ever since her musician husband died 20 years ago. She kept his music and his music studio just as he left it when he died. She had locked the keyboard of his piano and has allowed no one ever to enter the room. Each day, she stands for a long time in the doorway with her memories, usually crying. She has consistently refused to re-enter life again. She is known by all about her and all who know her as that eccentric old lady. Now, knowing what we do about grief and the grief process, it appears that at the time of her husband's death, she was not helped to wrestle her way through to a new way of life. Apparently, she had few or no friends who were willing to stay by her side during those difficult days. Or, even if they were there, they did not know what to do or what to say to her that would help her in her process. And as a result, she had no one to encourage her to do her grieving in a normal, natural, healthy, and necessary way. She felt that her only friend was her deceased husband, and she had to remain loyal to him. That was why she locked the keyboard to the piano. She wanted no one to ever play that piano again, lest she would be disloyal to the memory of the only person whose friendship she could trust. We don't want to get ourselves into that situation. We have to open up. We have to realize that life must go on. We use the memories of those who have gone on as a catalyst to bring us joy in our life to come, in our future that we live, in the love of God that we have in our hearts. God wants us to be happy. He made this world so that we could have everything that He put in here for our benefit, for our abundant living. We struggle to affirm our reality. We finally begin to affirm that life must go on. This is usually the stage 10 of grief. And we're usually at a point now to pick up, move on, even though we may be hurting, even though we may still be crying. We know that we can't stay at that place, or the place that we're in of no return, of a place that we're in where we're feeling dejected and dismayed, of a place that we're in of feeling no hope, of a place that we're in that is so uncomfortable. No joy, we gotta move. Please note that we do not say that the final stage is that we're back at our old self again. No, you'll never be back to that point because your life has changed. That person or whatever it was that's causing you grief, that's no longer there. You've experienced a loss and you've struggled and you've gone through a process. You come through the process a new person. You might go to the fire, but until you go through the fire and come out whole, you'll never be able to realize the change that has been made. There is an old adage that says, "Be patient with me because God is not through with me yet. When He does get through with me, I shall come forth as pure gold." And we know in order to make something new out of gold, it has to be melted at temperatures that are very, very hot. It melts it down and you shape it, and then it becomes a new thing. Most times better than it was before. As I have watched hundreds of people go through earth-shaking experience of grief, I have seen that those whose religious faith is mature and healthy come through the experience in a way that makes them better able to help others who face similar tragedies. I have seen people develop a deeper faith in God as a result of their grief experiences. Those who have a mature feeling with life and a mature feeling with God do better than those who are immature or childish in their faith. And they tend to face loss in healthier ways. Some never really work through their grief, sometimes in months or even years. They still have a tendency to grieve and grieve hard. If they don't face their grief in healthy ways, you'll find them still fighting battles within themselves. Persons who are spiritually more mature seem to be able to wrestle more effectively because they're aided by the conviction that God is with them. They do not feel that they have to face the present and the future alone. I am convinced of the importance of keeping at the task of our nurturing. We have to keep our faith because I see how much people demonstrate greatness under trial, and that is because of faith. Conversely, I now have seen what happens to people who have not seriously the necessity of working at their faith when they are going through things. But you got to work with your faith through good and bad. These people seem to be unprepared to handle even the smaller losses that face all of us from time to time. People of faith do not just suddenly get their way. Like the athlete who must stay in training, these people are always in training for whatever may come at any time. When loss comes, they are ready for it. It is just one of many griefs they have learned to wrestle with, and they are ready. They've learned how to handle it creatively. They have learned how to allow God to help them along the way. They grieve deeply over their loss, to be sure. And they too go through the stages of grief as we have described and talked about earlier. But they eventually come to understand that everything has not been taken from them. They realize that life will never be the same again. But they begin to sense that there is much in life that can be affirmed. There is much in life that is still good. There is much in life that's worth experiencing. There is such more to life than they ever dreamed before. Life is good. At the time of great loss, people who have a mature faith give evidence of an uncommon relationship with God, and they demonstrate an uncommon inner sense of strength and poise that grows out of their confidence that such a relationship with God can never be taken away from them. With such a basic philosophy, they can face any earthly loss with the knowledge that they will still have that person or still have something in their life. If it's just the memories, they will never lose everything. They still have God on whom to rely. I've come to see that this way of looking at life makes an amazing difference in the quality of the grief experience. It actually can become what I'm going to call good grief. Now, you might say, how in the world can grief be good? It's the attitude that you take when going through grief. It's understanding the process and leaning into the process, embracing it, doing what is necessary in order to get you through this process in a healthy way. This is why we call it good grief. It is not right that people should try to carry on grief work alone. People through the centuries have found new and unexpected strength in the words, I am with you always. So we say, grieve, not as those who have no hope, but please, when you have something worth grieving about, go ahead and grieve. This is normal. This is human. This is necessary. As we begin to struggle to affirm reality, we find that we need not be afraid of the real world. We can live in it again. We can even love in it again. For a time, we thought there was nothing about life that we could affirm. Now, the dark clouds are beginning to break up, and occasionally, for brief moments, rays of the sun come through. And these are warm rays, welcomed rays, rays that give us light, rays that give us hope. And hope based on faith in a God whom our fathers and mothers have found to be dependable, once more becomes a part of our own outlook on life. Though we continue to struggle, we have affirmed our reality. We begin to live again. We begin to love again. We begin to appreciate what God has given us, and He has given us much. He came so that we could have life and have it more abundantly. So live, embrace your grief, live, understand your grief, live, and know that there is hope. Now, I hope that as we conclude this particular series, that you have learned something. You have been brought to the realization that even though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, there's nothing to fear, because God is always with you. Through turmoil, through grief, through depression, through hopelessness, He is the one that gives us hope and lives eternally on our behalf so that we can have life eternal also. God bless you, and I hope that this series has been beneficial to you as you continue your grief journey.